The U.S. Department of Labor reports employers who embrace hiring people with disabilities saw a 90% increase in employee retention. And with October being National Disability Employment Awareness Month, it's time to shine a spotlight on the importance of infusing the workforce with individuals with disabilities. To help me do just that, I enlisted the assistance of Michael Lafears, a diversity, equity, and inclusion expert. Lafears has served in corporate headquarters for Walmart. He's a published author, spent some time in the Army National Guard, and served as the head coach of junior NFL flag football. And his passion for diversity and inclusion is second to none. He joined me this week to discuss the importance of ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table when it comes to entering the workforce, and the importance of celebrating the benefits that individuals with disabilities can bring to the workforce. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. So let's get started. Michael, it's tremendous to be with you this morning, and I'm excited to dive into our discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Great to see you this morning, and thank you so very much for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So, Michael, as you know, October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So, my first question to you this morning is, what do you think a fully inclusive work society looks like for folks with disabilities? And what do you think the importance of the month in recognizing the occasion is there, buddy?
Um, in my in my opinion, I think the fullness of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace encompasses the recruiting, the interviewing, the hiring, the promotion, the retention efforts, making sure that it encompasses a pool that looks different, think different from different backgrounds to move the company forward and actually meet the expectations of the community and the business vision statements that the company may have in regards to D&I. To accomplish all that, I just think that you can't leave any rock unturned. You can't turn anybody around without at least giving them opportunity, a chance, no matter their race, disability, veteran status, or anything of that nature.
And tell me, what do you think is the key to educating employers about the benefits of infusing more people with disabilities into a workforce?
Um, you just have to find a way to educate them on the benefits on how it can better the company overall. For instance, I can only speak from my perspective and my experience, but an individual in disability, I can't speak to their personal challenges or opportunities. I can try to educate them based on my common knowledge of it and my understanding, but I can't speak their struggles or challenges. So you have to communicate that to the leadership, like, okay, if we are truly a diverse and inclusive company, we need these individuals to be at the table to have a conversation of what is needed, because we do have customers with seen and unseen disabilities, and we have employees with seen and unseen disabilities. So to make that connection, you need to have those people in the room speaking up for that community.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, I always say that life is a constant game of networking, and the only way we can make progress in this area is effective communication. And I know that you've had some experience working in corporate HR, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on the value of effective communication as it relates to effective relationship building.
Effective communication.
In terms of, yeah, in terms of effective relationship building.
Okay. Yeah, communication is very important in regards to relationship building. Because you have to have a conversation. You got to talk to get to know people. Human nature, we make judgment calls by first impressions anyways. Or before you even say hello, we make a human reaction to make a judgment. I'm not going to be too churchy on risk response, but man was on earth alone. And the Bible said no man should be alone. That's why he created Eve as a companion. So if the Lord feels like man needs a companion, why, as a human race, do we feel like we could walk this journey alone? I also feel like we all have a purpose, and we don't walk this journey to our ultimate purpose alone. There are people that is placed in our lives to help us get to that end destination. And to meet those people, you got to interact, you got to talk, you got to be in the places that you probably wouldn't go. That's why networking events are important. That's why meeting people on your team or within your department to get to know them, or in your personal volunteer work or community service, getting to know those people, because you don't know where those relationships going to take you. And lastly, once you get to know a person, you get to know them beyond their skin color, beyond their disability, beyond their age, or whatever the case may be. Because you build that relationship, you get to know the person and not just the physical appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, I'm also wanting your opinion on the importance of increasing productivity and morale at work. What do you think the keys are to establishing that goal and objective?
The keys are being open-minded. You got to be open-minded to for any of this to work in regards to diversity, equity, inclusion. You got to want to do it, and you got to figure out what's the personal connection. What is the end goal? How is my open-mindedness and my willingness to build these relationships gonna ultimately make me better as an individual and make my company better as a company and just make society better by engaging, learning, and educating yourself and others about the differences in people.
Absolutely. And tell me, what comes to mind when I tell you the phrase that representation matters? What does that phrase mean to you?
What it means to me is having a seat at the table. And if no one brings you to the table or invites you to the table, bring your own table and sit in the room. The whole goal is to be in the room, to be able to speak your truth, speak your perspective, so everyone there can hear it from the source and not from third parties or media that skews the reality of individuals, whether individuals with disabilities, race, age, religious beliefs, and, and, and helping to move that needle forward, because your voice is in the room and you writing and telling your own story and not somebody else telling your story.
The important work of vocational rehabilitation professionals is something that should not be overlooked. And Lafears has this message for those professionals engaging in the vital work they do in order to positively contribute to the successful societal integration of individuals with disabilities?
I would encourage them to continue to work because it is meaningful work for what they do to try to give the opportunities for individuals with disability to show their talents and abilities in the workforce, what they bring to the table. So I encourage those in that field of rehabilitation, vocational field to continue to be advocates and the platform for those people, individuals to be seen and heard in the workspace.
Yeah, it's totally very important to sort of build those bridges of inclusion. So I thank you for sharing that. And I'm also curious to ask you about the importance of continuing the conversation with employers who may be hesitant to hire people with disabilities. What would you say to them if an employer is watching this but is hesitant to hire someone with a disability?
That's a great question, Kevin. I would say prove yourself. If your company says it supports diversity and inclusion, inclusion means inclusion, include everyone. If you have hesitations or reservations by hiring someone with disability, don't. Give them the same opportunity as anyone else and see what they can do. And make an assessment fairly and justly in regards to their talent and ability to accomplish that job responsibility that they are being considered for.
So I know that you, as I mentioned before, worked in the corporate world and corporate HR. So I'm curious to ask you, where do you think corporate America has made the most progress in diversity, equity, and inclusion? And where do you think there's still needs work to be done?
I think corporate has done an excellent job of using their platform to have a conversation started or to address it because they reach a mass media of people. Prior to all the latest events, the conversation was kind of taboo or folks wasn't really talking about it, in my opinion, until the companies start raising the conversations. What they can do better is follow up and actually executing on what their promises are, what they say they're going to do, and not let it allow it to be just okay. But it's time period. We're going to talk about this. We're going to be excited about it, and then as time go by, okay, put that on the back burner. Let's change it up. No, this has to be ongoing and continuously, so companies can do a better job of keeping their promises, following up, and don't let this conversation fade away.
Yeah, and Michael, I'm curious to ask you, well, how do you think will know that full diversity, equity, and inclusion has been has been accomplished? How do you think we'll know when to gauge that full societal inclusion has been accomplished?
Well, in my opinion, I think when it's no longer a debate, but a way of life where you can visually see the inclusiveness, feel the inclusiveness. Um, Not to say the conversation's in, because conversation should continue at all times, but it's no longer a debate if we really need it or not. It should be the norm rather than the exception at this point. And I just advise individuals and companies to continue to have the conversations until we get to the point where no one is debating if we're being inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. And my final question for you, Michael, is how do you think you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined?
I would like my professional legacy to be Michael grabbed the torch and he ran with it. He tried to advance the people, the community that he served, and he passed that torch to the next generation a little better than his generation, the generation prior, and moving the needle forward towards equality.
Fabulous, Michael. I really want to thank you for helping me kick off National Disability Employment Awareness Month and spending a few minutes with me to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Your time, energy, and efforts on my behalf are most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here this morning. It's most appreciated.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Appreciate it, Kevin.